Good afternoon. Good afternoon, kings and queens of the land. Good afternoon, the royals. Good afternoon, the liberated zones of Africa. Burkina Faso, which is led by the African beast, President Ibrahim or Captain Ibrahim Traore. Niger, led by the African beast, Colonel uh, Abdurrahman Tian. Mali, led by General Assimi Goita. Good afternoon to KZN. Good afternoon to the MK party in KZN. Partially liberated zone in the British colony, South Africa. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining. My name is Ngoni Mkonto. This is the Royal Opinion. Today we're talking about President Museveni's speech. Museveni is campaigning to become president again for the next 5 years in Uganda. He has been president since 1986 when he defeated um, Idi Amin to take over Uganda. He presided over, generally we would say, a peaceful or a stable Uganda for a very long time, because since 1986. So Museveni has given a very provocative speech in his campaign while campaigning to be re-elected for 5 years again. Maybe I should just share the speech so that um, let me share the speech so that we hear what he says, and then I'll stop him and talk about what he's saying.
Ocean. I'm entitled to that ocean. In future, we are going to have wars. The Americans are now saying they want to be superior in land forces, on land. They want to be superior in the air force. They want to be superior at sea, navy. They want to be superior in space. And they have all been to the moon. The Americans have been to the moon, the Russians, the Chinese, the Indians have now gone. You fellows, you are here on Earth. Those fellows are on the moon, looking at you like insects. I don't like to be in that situation. That's why I say, you people, why don't you see how to unite? Because Uganda, even if you wanted to build a navy, how can you build it? We don't have access to the sea. The political organization in Africa is so irrational. Some of the countries have no access to the sea. For economic purposes, but also for defense purposes, you are stuck. How do I export my products? That's why we have got endless discussion with Kenya, then this one stopped, then another one comes, then the railway, the pipeline, the what, we discuss. But that ocean belongs to me. Because where is my ocean? I am entitled to that ocean. In future, we are going to have wars. In the future, we're going to have wars. How can you say that you are in a block of flats, that the compound belongs to only the flats on the ground floor, that the compound belongs to the whole block. All the flats are entitled to the compound.
Yeah.
There's no way you can say. So may I just watch these people? You are really endangering yourself. How can you have a situation like this? Uganda is landlocked inside here. But where is my ocean? My ocean is the Indian Ocean. No, it belongs, really, me. I'm on the top floor of the block. And then you say the compound belongs only the ones on the ground floor. This is madness. So that's why I say, you people, you better unite economically for the sake of prosperity, if you want prosperity. Market. But if you want stability and also strength in the world, so that you can go to the moon also, you go to the moon. The ones who have been to the moon are big ones, not smaller people.
Superpowers.
The Americans, the Chinese, the Russians, and the Indians now. Our friends, the British, are still here with us. On Earth, they have not gone. They can't go. It's too much. One country can't manage. The French are here with us. All these fellows, except those four, because size matters. So that's why we look at East Africa, so that you deal with the issue of strategic security.
This is what President Museveni is saying. Basically, there's an issue about the so-called landlocked countries. The landlocked countries and divided Africa like they wanted to divide it for themselves. They did not care about whether the division was fair or not fair. President Museveni is now talking about the problem that faces the landlocked countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, Botswana, Swaziland, Uganda, different countries which are landlocked. If they say you are landlocked, they mean you don't have direct access to the ocean. So the ocean is very important. It's actually a very, very important asset or a very important resource to have. The ocean is critically important resource to have because if you are transporting, if you want to develop a particular country and you want to buy and sell things to outside countries, you need the ocean because it's easier and cheaper to transport things over the ocean. Some other things are even impossible to transport over, uh, but very easier to transport overseas. And the economy over the ocean, it's very critical because for the nation to be able to grow, you need to trade with outside countries, with outside people. So if you don't have direct access to the ocean, it means you must talk to the people who've got access to the ocean. To countries who've got access to oceans like South Africa, Botswana does not have access to the ocean, then South Africa will give access to Botswana in Durban, but they will pay certain amount. But Museveni is talking a different story. He says, my ocean, you can't say because I'm in the top floor of the house, then I'm not part of the yard. This is a very important resource that we're talking about, the ocean resources. When the white people on the white system captured black people, they captured the ocean economy, they captured the river economy, they captured the land economy, and they captured the air economy or the space economy. They captured all of these economies. So if you need to create wealth, you need to look at all of these economies. For if you are talking about at a state level, you need to look at all of those economies. His main worry is about uh, safety. It's about the wars that are happening in the world. Maybe I should talk a little bit where I've got concern about what he's saying. I'm actually in agreement with what Museveni is saying, but the only issue that has to be looked at as well, besides what he's saying, if he says the natural resource which is closer to me, it's also his resource, then the natural resource which is closer to him should also be my resource. There's almost the purest iron ore in the world, the purest iron ore in the world. It's 70% pure, meaning when you mine, you can actually sell it as an iron. You mine it and sell it as an iron, 70% pure. So if you say the resources that are closer to my place also belongs to you, then also the resources that belongs closer to your place also belongs to me. Then this has to force Africa to unite. And I have a bit of a challenge when he talks about war, when the first thing is war. There's two reasons why Museveni is talking about wars. Museveni has been president since 1986. He's talking about African unity and forming the East African Federation. The federation, when you talk about federation, it's agreement between countries almost to become united and become one and share the resources like they did in Burkina Faso, like it happened between Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. The liberated zones in Africa, which are those three states that I have just mentioned, have threatened the Western countries, have proven to the Western countries what would happen to them if Africa gets liberated. They want Africa in chains. They want Africa united, but in control. They want to remain in control. They want to be the ones who cause the unity of Africans. They want to remain in control. So, because they want to remain in control, they want their trusted people, their loyalists, like Museveni, who has been Americans and the British. He talks about these British friends who are still here, who have never been to the moon, because size matters. The Americans have been to the moon and the Chinese have been to the moon, but us and the British are just around because size matters. How big are you? It's actually not size that matters. It's what you are specializing in. If your people are specializing in dancing and drinking and drugs, engaging in gambling, in smoking, in all of those, you will not be able to have scientists. It's simple as that. You will not be able to produce scientists. So it's very simple. That's why I also don't believe that in America there are very good scientists. I don't believe we've got good scientists in America because they eat very bad food. They are more violent than any nation in the world, more toxins. They eat more toxins, poisonous food than any nation in the world. You can't have such people again producing scientists because what makes your brain is very important. What composes your brain, the food that you are eating plays a very important role. So let's continue to dissect President Museveni's proposal that Africa should unite. East Africa should form an East African Federation for the sake of uniting and for the sake of creating wealth. This is for the first time I hear a politician talk about wealth that has to go to families. This is for the first time. It is. I have never had any politician who talks about things that would help families to create wealth. President Museveni is saying if we want to black people to create family wealth, then unity is compulsory. He's been one of the people who've been refusing unity. When I don't really count people, blame people for what they did in the past or what they said in the past, I actually want to us to analyze what he's saying at the moment, uh, uh, whether it makes sense or it doesn't. The unity of Africa is very important for everybody. What he's saying, the points unity of Africa is very important because, of course, he's giving an example that Uganda wants to be strong in the. Thank you very much for joining Queen Precious Malachi. How other, but my question is, after all these years, why now President Museveni? After all these years, why now President Museveni? Yeah, I will answer. I will answer to that because it's one of the questions that I want to answer. Why is President Museveni all of a sudden talking about the unity of Africa when he opposed um, Gaddafi's proposal to unite Africa because he was holding on to Uganda? He opposed the unity of Africa when President Gaddafi proposed the unity of Africa. Because President Museveni has been serving his masters and is also continuing to serve his colonial masters even up to date. And I will expose how is he serving his colonial masters by this proposal that he is making. First, he is proposing, which is good and which is actually a point of agitation, that He needs access to the Indian Ocean. When he has to negotiate with these other people and these other people come to administration and then the agreement is gone and then you have to restart again, negotiate again with the people. So it's a problem. He needs access to the ocean. He's raising a valid point. But the issue that is raising to go to war instead of negotiating. Let me explain why President Zuma is avoiding war. Because in South Africa, President Zuma, if he can declare war, it can happen. Let me explain why President Zuma is avoiding war. War is costly. It's costly in the economy first. The people who are excited when you talk war is Americans who are the producers of the gunpowder and the bombs that you are going to use to bomb each other. The method that you're going to use to fight each other, they want to test their weapons. They want places where they can test their new weapons that they have formed. And besides, they want an Africa which is not stable. If Africa is not stable, they are able to deploy their mercenaries to come and steal the gold, steal the minerals which they so desperately need in Africa. They are able to, when Africa is unstable, when Africa is engaged in a war, this is brothers, it's black people. Kenya, they speak in Swahili. Tanzania, they speak in Swahili. Uganda, they speak in Swahili. Meaning, even if they stop speaking English, they can actually agree. If they don't agree, then there's somebody else who've got a different agenda than what they are supposed to be doing. The agenda that they are supposed to be setting is to serve their people. But other people may want to serve the Europeans because the Europeans are happy because they produce the arms. We are not going to use our spears and knives to fight each other or some uh, kirnopis that we produce in Africa to fight each other. We're going to Europe, we're going to America to buy the recent arms that the Americans have produced. And sometimes during the war, you money during the war, and then you go and borrow. They continue to give you the arms uh, at a cost of borrowing. After the war, you sell resources so that after the war they can take all the resources. So they are excited when we talk about the war because the war will be very costly for Africa and it will be very beneficial for the Europeans. So President Zuma wants to avoid the war because war is beneficial to the people who are producing arms. In many ways, they get the profit and they can also get they can take some other assets from you when you fail to pay for their to force their arms into you. Nobody buy arms for no particular reason. It means President Museveni is a warmonger. After all these years, he has not learned that wars are dangerous. So President Museveni should be, at his age, be aware. Wars should be avoided if not necessary. War should be the ultimate thing to do, the last thing to do when you've got nowhere to run. Then you declare war. So if you start, before you even start negotiating, you declare war on own people. The outsiders are going to give you the guns to fight each other, to kill each other, while they come and take the resources, and sometimes you will sacrifice the resources of your future generation to actually give to the war. Queen Precious saying the suggestions are good, the timing is questionable. The suggestion of a war is not good, but the suggestion of Africans to unite, it's actually a very good proposal. We all speak there, we can hear each other, we can find each other, we look the same, we're actually the same people. That's why, like I'm saying, in Tanzania, they speak Kiswahili, in all countries, in Uganda and in Kenya, they also speak the same languages. It's easier for people to sit down and talk and agree. But if you talk war, then you're talking a different thing. So I was still talking about the dangers of war. First, costly in terms of the resources that you need to fight the war. You're going to have to pay for them from the Europeans, who are going to make a killing out of it, and they would not want the war to end. They will want the war to continue. Secondly, uh, the war is costly because you will be killing the most important people in the community, which are young men. The most important people in the community, the young men and the young women, will be engaged in the war. White people will be happy to say eliminate all of these young people so that these black people should not multiply so much. At least if we able to eliminate 1 million young boys who were supposed to get married and start families and create uh, um, have more children to create a bigger population for Africa. So they want, for the purpose of depopulation, the war is going to be critical because you are going to use your young people who are going to be sacrificed. Most of the people are going to be sacrificed in the war. And then after the war, you will have to sit down and agree on something. So why not agree on something before the war? Because at the end of the war, you will have to agree on something. And if the agreement that you are having is not fair, it will have to be revised in the future, because other people are still going to come, like President Museveni is raising this issue. Other people are still going to raise in the future about question the same issue. So basically, you will eliminate the young population, which will be good for depopulation agenda, which is disparately looking for. So they will support Yoweri Museveni's proposal to go to war for the Indian Ocean, and they will support Ruto's refusal for access to the Indian Ocean for Uganda, so that the countries would go to war together. Economically, both countries are going to pay Americans to get the weapons. and economically they will be strained. Some of the things that because in Tanzania will also be involved because it's when we talk about the Indian Ocean, it's across Tanzania, and it's between Tanzania and Kenya. That's where Uganda wants. So having sacrificed the young people, then we've got the problem with the population. The psychological impact of war is you are creating people who only knows one thing. You are creating people who know only fighting. To reverse that psychology and make them scientists is going to be very difficult after the war. It means this generation will be sacrificed for the sake of the next generation if we go to war, of which we don't know who is going to remain, who is not going to remain. So if we talk about war, we're talking about serious issues. Impact of war is that after the war, you will not be able to easily convert the warriors that you were using for killing people in the war to become civilians to heal people instead of because what they know is eliminating. Now you want them to change to become almost opposite of what they know all of their life. It's going to be a challenge to create such a society. Countries like Russia, countries like China are suffering with the population decline. Russia is suffering decimally. That's why they actually even wanted Africans to go to Russia. Now, if you are a woman and you get pregnant in Russia, pays you for being pregnant and they take care of your child because there is a lot of young men who were eliminated in the war, a lot of young men who are needed still for the war again. So it's a problem for the leadership. At the end of the day, there will be war fatigue. At the end of the day, they may not be able to continue with the war if this thing continues to harm them like that. At the end of the day, you may not be able to continue with the war when you realize how costly it is. So, another cost of the war is infrastructure, which is right. When you destroy the infrastructure, the people who are going to come and build the infrastructure for you are the same people who gave you the guns and the bombs to bomb each other. They will come back with the loans to come and give you for you to rebuild whatever has been destroyed by the war. So they still benefit if we go to war. In actual fact, war should not be an option between Africans. Negotiations and unity should be paramount because they should not be. I have never had any African president opposing the unity of Africans. So why should we go to war? Are not even opposed to what we are saying. If it's not for impressing the people who are outside uh, what we are talking about, because there's never been, we've got all of these presidents are sellouts. We only have 3 states which are liberated. Out of 55 states, we only have 3 states which are liberated: Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. So the reason he's doing this, the three states which are liberated, President Zuma went to the Sahel. People have been talking about the uniting Africa. The Pan-Africanists have been talking about uniting Africa. Every leader in Africa is talking about uniting. But there's nobody who is putting the boots on the ground, who is doing the actual work to ensure that Africa is united. President Zuma saw the gap and bridged the gap. He went to Burkina Faso and spoke to President Ibrahim Traore to start the process of uniting Africa. The reaction of Europe is this to call for war in East Africa. Because when they unite, when President Zuma puts his foot on the ground and then facilitate the unity of Africa, he's going to unite Africa for the sake of Africans. But when they push their own agenda, they are going to delay the unity and unite Africa for the sake of Europeans. The unity of Africa cannot be avoided. It has to happen because young people of Africa want Africa to unite. The Europeans the fear that the Europeans have is for Africa to unite under the control of Ibrahim Traore and President Zuma. President Zuma has got the signs. He's still an elder who is still living, who's got the signs of leadership. So having the knowledge of the socialism, the Russian socialism, plus his knowledge of the traditional leadership and his knowledge of capitalism, he's got a science in which Africa can lead itself without the Europeans and take the power away out of reach for outsiders. He's going around meeting African presidents who think alike. Because President Zuma in South Africa is believing that he can take over government through peaceful means. And because of the things that I've listed, cost of war, there are still more costs which are attached to war than what I've actually mentioned. So, after the meeting with President Ibrahim Traore, we've heard that Mali has declared war with Benin for allowing terrorists, for harboring terrorists in their place. The leaders in the AES have been conscientized It's a war. It's what is happening. YouTube does this. It's a war. They take us out. We're in a war. Wars are indeed destructive, but sometimes it seems is the only way forward. Yes, I absolutely agree. If war is the only way forward, then war should forward. There are other options. Then the other option should be prioritized before talking about wars, because wars are going to leave communities shattered. You can't see me. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am back. I'm back. It's a war. We're involved in a war. This is a war. The algorithm is categorizing people who are talking things like this, and they limit the number of people who are able to view us every time when the broadcast goes to seven, 8 people. Maximum it's 8 people. Then they will cut out so that they take people out. But the truth will always be spoken. Will always speak the truth at whatever cost that is. So we were still talking about uh, President Museveni's rhetorics about war. But in this speech, he says a lot of things. Let me share. Let me just continue to share this his speech so that I continue to give you more.
These are the 7 points in the manifesto.
Thank you.
If we have got economic integration, it can help with the economy. But how about defense? How do we defend ourselves? The Americans are now saying they want to be superior in land forces, on land. They want to be superior in the air force. They want to be superior at sea, navy. They want to be superior in space. And they have all been to the moon. The Americans have been to the moon, the Russians, the Chinese, the Indians have now gone. You fellows, you are here on Earth. Those fellows are on the moon, looking at you like insects. I don't like to be in that situation. I say, you people, why don't you see how to unite? Because Uganda, even if you wanted to build a navy, how can you build it? We don't have access to the sea. We are also looking at the political integration of East Africa. Whenever I listen to the song of the Bagisu, I like it so much, the tune of the Bagisu. And I am hoping you to capture it, confiscate it, and take it to East Africa. When we form the Federation of East Africa as a federal anthem. Now, why do we need a federal anthem? You see what's happening in the world. War between Russia and this one. Americans are doing this. How will Africa defend itself? Normally, when I'm
Raising very, very important issue there, President Museveni is saying, how will Africa defend itself? Do we have any way to defend ourselves? Let's say now America say they want the gold and you say you don't want to give them, and they say we're going to come with our guns. How are you going to defend ourselves? He's talking about that. But my view about it, let me quickly share this and I'll get back to President Museveni.
Like, however, maybe sooner or later, science will prove no human being has gone to moon. No one has gone to moon. It's all story. No one has walked on moon. There's no air station outside the Valimandala, the breathing space of planet Earth. Man has not moved out of the breathing space of planet Earth. Let it be on record. Time will prove I am right.
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism saying nobody has been to the moon. No human being has been outside the breathing space of planet Earth. That's what he says. President Yoweri Museveni is saying he's got fear that the gap between the European science and the African science is actually increasing. He's giving an example that these people are on the moon and they are looking at us down on planet just like ants. Um, and they can just take a doom to spread us because we are just lower, they are in the moon. They can just take a doom and spray at us, and we would not even know what happened to us, just like the ants. We would not know what happened to them when you just spray them with a doom when they irritate you. So President Museveni has got that fear. But Somaji, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, says nobody has been to the moon, and I believe him because you cannot have so much evil and so much good produced in the same place. You cannot produce alcoholics and drug addicts, so much drug addicts, and remains a leader in science. You cannot produce a nation. You will not be able to produce a powerful nation from those who abuse alcohol. So I believe that even in those bigger nations, President Museveni, who is afraid of the bigger nations at the moment, saying they can bomb us anyhow if they want. Queen Precious saying, Lord, so what about the Americans who claims they have been to the moon? But they always claim, they lie about almost everything. Eh, they lie